So I don't need to tell you something's wrong when your car sounds like this. That's a motorcycle right there. So today I'm going to be addressing this little issue with my car and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So this is me just going for a little bit of a drive. As you can see, when I'm stopping, the needle on the RPMs is all over the place and it's threatening to dip close to zero and stall out the engine. And I did get stalled in the middle of some very wide intersections a few times while turning left. And here's another angle with the sound. Obviously, I already have some exhaust issues down there, but those are kind of separate issues. But overall, the car is not like terrible condition. It's just kind of weird for it to be doing this. So now I'm going to try and figure out basically what's going on. And the final angle here, there's a little bit of kind of oil leakage here and there, but it's probably just me spilling the oil. Okay, my suspicion, so I took this off. So I kind of forgot to explain what happens when you take off the mass airflow sensor, the connector. Basically, the engine will default to a default state of idle for the engine. So it won't do any calculations to kind of compensate for the amount of airflow. So it might run a little bit rougher when you remove it, but it should be kind of a more stable and more consistent idle. So if you get stranded and your car is just like stalling for God knows what reason, you can try disconnecting this mass airflow sensor. And since the car won't be getting any data from the sensor, it'll just kind of put itself back into a default factory state, which might not be the best state for your particular engine and the condition it's in. But it will at least get you from point A and point B, and it'll probably stop that stalling issue that you're having. So this is me just testing out to see what happens if I disconnect the mass airflow sensor and how the car runs when I do that. One other thing is that a really quick and easy way to check if the problem is the mass airflow sensor is to start your car running with this disconnected and then connect it and see if the engine stalls out. And if it does stall out, then it's likely that the problem is the mass airflow sensor. And then you can see over here, that is like the most normal idle this car has ever had. So what my suspicion is that this mass airflow sensor is bad. Bro, it killed the car. Okay, problem solved, I guess. Okay, just for comparison, this is with the sensor plugged in. Look at that idle. It's so much like rougher. It's coming down because the car is like up to temperature, but it takes a minute for the car to kind of figure out what's going on. And then when you're driving, it's just like, nah, I'm good, and stops working part of the time. So I think the computer is fighting with the mass airflow sensor, trying to decide what the hell to do, because clearly the sensor doesn't work, so that's it. So here's a quick photo of what the mass airflow sensor looks like and the part number if you need it. All right, a few problems with the airflow. One is that it's not great. This sensor being like 25 years old is not great, so we're gonna take it out and clean it instead of buying a new one. And we'll see how dirty it is and if that does anything. But that's the idea. I will report back. I'm gonna lose these screws. Okay, look at that. There's like red or whatever nice on this side. This is the side the air is flowing into. So, yeah. Alright, so I caved out of fear and I bought this thing. And I just sprayed the sensor. And now you can actually see the thingy there, so hopefully that fixes it. Okay, right now the car is idling pretty normally. I did turn it on twice just to double check and have the computer reset everything. The real test is going to be when the engine is cold to start it up and see if the idle is any better. This should be a moderately cold start, so let's see. All right. It usually idles to like 1,500, so this is already a little bit better. Because we're getting very close to 1. Which is quite solid. And then usually when I put it in gear it would drop to 1, so let's put it in drive. Okay, fine. It is a lot quieter though from like complete cold. There you go, now it's dropping a bit. Yeah, that usually would take a lot longer. That's a much more normal idle. So I think it definitely helped. I don't know if just replacing the part itself would do more, but honestly, for what I need it for is good enough. All right, this is like the cold start. Still a little bit better than it used to be. All right, so it's been a day or two, and I think the difference is definitely noticeable even when I'm driving. Like the car seems to have a little bit more pick me up and throttle response, and it's not like struggling nearly as hard as it used to be. So I think it's definitely made a little bit of a difference. As I mentioned in the video, I'm not sure if maybe just replacing it would make an even bigger difference. At this point, the car is really old and the electronics are all pretty old, so if I replace like one thing, I'll probably have to replace the whole goddamn wiring harness at some point soon, so I don't really want to do that. But it seems to be running a little bit better now, and I will keep the description updated to see, you know, probably 6 months from now if it's still doing that. And if I've had to clean the sensor again, it's pretty straightforward. You just read the instructions on the airflow sensor bottle. I did read online that you could also use isopropyl alcohol. I didn't want to because the part is very sensitive, so you'd probably have to like spray it with isopropyl alcohol and not use direct contact, because this is kind of a direct spray that you could use, this sensor clean stuff. So anyway, that's kind of my 2 cents on the topic, and hopefully you can make your car run a bit better with this.